into the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Use code DNVR when you sign up for a new account to get amazing odds boosts every single day. Rudo, AJ, Jesse coming at you live to talk a little bit of lead up to free agency here. Obviously, the Avs do have some holes to fill. We talked about it yesterday. The 2C position and a defensive position in their bottom four somewhere, depending on how you feel about it. We'll get into it all. The big three names for me hitting this free agent market are Malkin, Giroux, and Gaudreau right now. But do you realistically think the Avs could be in on any of those three guys?
Yeah.
Your mic's broken again, Jesse.
Still can't hear him.
You can't hear me?
Now you
go. Oh, okay. I was like, all right, well, now I don't know how to fix it. Gaudreau is probably the only one that I would say I can't see them really being in on, because that I think is going to be more of like a long-term big money deal. Those other two guys I think are prime candidates for AJ and I were talking about it this morning at Dev Camp. Those two guys, not those two guys in particular, but I think you could see some short-term big money deals in this free agency more so than ever. Is there are some players kind of just waiting over until we get to get out of this flat cap. And to me, Malkin and Giroux are two guys that are absolutely going to be open to entertaining. Come to Denver for a year for $9.5 million or whatever. You know what I mean? Fill in your dollar amount. Yep. Come get a shot at a cup, and then you'll still cash in next year.
I mean, if Evgeny Malkin wants a multi-year deal, say three.
Two, I would say for sure.
I would say if you go 3 years. If you go 4 years, I'm probably out.
4 years takes him to 39.
But if he wants to do a 3-year deal, saying like $7 million.
What's the AAV on that?
I'm saying like just do what Joe Pavelski did. David read about $7 million.
7 by 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess my question would be like, what's the plan if he falls off? Like, presumably Newhook moves up to 2C at some point.
Oh, the plan if he falls off or if he's hurt or whatever is you just fucking make it up.
Just deal with it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Between JT Compher, Alex Newhook, and Ben Myers, you got somebody that can try and take that spot.
I'm less worried about replacing him at 2C and more like, can he be an effective player on your third line? Or is he just waste if he's not a top 6 player?
So if your concern is that he's not good anymore, how do you make him work in the lineup?
Correct.
You don't, bro. At that point, you
just sit him.
At that point, you're just wrong, and you just gotta live with whatever he gives you.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, like it's one of those things where you trust that a guy like Evgeny Malkin will be able to be passable enough. To me, the big risk there is the the health. And going back to what we talked about with Nichushkin yesterday, it's kind of the same thing, but opposite. Why is it that the only organization that he's ever known in the NHL, the organization that knows him better than anybody, why are they uncomfortable with the multi-year deal? That's the only thing that scares you. You know what I mean?
I would also say that same organization just gave Rickard Rakell a fucking 6-year deal.
It's a great point.
And so maybe their evaluation just isn't very good.
Yeah, no, that's a great point.
The flip side there, Claude Giroux, would you give him a multi-year deal if it came down to that too?
Yep.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
He's one though that in this industry, rumors come from somewhere. You know what I mean? When it comes to this stuff.
It's me. They come from me.
I hope so. I hope AJ's just sending out tweets like
he's got more burners than we even realize.
True. They banned one Twitter account and they've just been chasing me ever since.
But I do think he wants to go to Ottawa eventually. I think that's where he wants to end up. And I don't know. I think that's eventually what he wants to do. So I don't necessarily know if that dude will be looking for multi-year. I think Claude Giroux, he's the exact person that I could see going full Marian Hossa here. Ooh, let me try that one. Let me try that one. Ooh, let me try that one.
Yeah.
And then he'll go
I agree. Claude Giroux would be the guy that, I mean, this Ottawa thing just won't go away, right?
Right.
So, yeah. I don't think it'll be in Colorado. Claude Giroux, I don't think that's happening. But, we'll wake up tomorrow morning and he'll have a 1-year deal for $6 million in Colorado. And we'll all be fucking trying to high-five each other's boxes and shit.
Yeah,
It'll be a great time.
Yeah.
But I would be surprised. I just don't. The big fish, I would agree. Johnny Gaudreau, that is a hard no.
If Johnny Gaudreau signed in Colorado, that would be I would be legitimately floored. Like
Talk about a fucking thunderbolt.
Right.
To the whole league, like the Avs win the cup, and Johnny Gaudreau's just like, yeah, screw this.
I'm gonna go win.
Yeah, let's go do that. And then Claude Giroux's like, yeah, I'll take $1 million. Let's go do that.
Yeah. Gaudreau, I think, is the only one tomorrow that I would be like really, really surprised if they sign back or if they signed in Colorado.
So I do want to ask you guys this report that he's got an $80 million offer sitting on the table from the Flames that he just isn't accepting right now.
Mm-hmm.
Does that blow you away a little bit that a guy's saying no to $80 million?
I mean, as a poor person, yes, totally. As like other hockey players, no. I totally understand the want and need to be on a successful hockey team that really you feel like you can win with.
Well, and it's also one of those things where like he's walking away from this $80 million contract. Like, not to say there won't be one out there for him tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's harder to get to 80 though when you only have 7 years to do it. So
for sure.
Well, look, the difference between 80 and 75, is it really that much?
I mean, how many times do I say this on the pod? Every year during free agency, what are you trying to buy with 80 million that you can't buy with 75?
There's a great question in the chat. Is that 80 million Canadian?
Yeah, I mean, I guess
it's like 50 million American.
Well,
yeah,
it's not. By the way, all contracts are 80 million American.
They're in USD, but it's a funny question because you're like, well, I mean, if we're gonna get paid a monopoly money, I'm gonna pay myself $700 million a year. It'll be wonderful.
Stamkos is the ultimate example of this. That he had that massive, gigantic deal on the table from the Maple Leafs. And he re-signed in Tampa for like multiple $1 million less AAV, but over the life of the contract, he actually came out ahead by like $2.5 million because of all the taxes and stuff.
Do you guys know what's crazy about that Stamkos deal?
What's that?
It's almost over.
Yeah, I know. I hate that.
I looked at it last night and I was like, "What?"
Yeah, let's not talk about that. And then Nevada too. They're the other ones.
Nevada too. No income tax, so they you make a lot more money when you go to those places.
Are you telling me that Shea Weber is really glad that his contract got traded to?
Oh my Vegas? Gosh! Yeah,
from Montreal of places.
I never thought about that. You're totally right.
He's like, yes,
money.
Yeah.
Anyway, indeed. Continuing, we'll stick with the forwards for now. We'll get into defensemen and other things in a little bit. But you go down this list, and it's a little bit all over the place right now. Tampa still hasn't worked out a deal with Andre Palat. You have guys like Nino Niederreiter, Riley Smith hitting free agency. Obviously, the Avs didn't get their deal done yet with Burakovsky, if that's a thing. Kadri, too, we've kind of always assumed is probably leaving, but the depth of this free agency class really seems to come on the forward side. If you're looking for options, there's a lot to do there. Is there anything particular you guys have honed in on?
Well, I mean, we talked about this at the rink today quite a bit, man. But after the RFA purge yesterday, all the quality guys that hit the market that did not receive qualifying offers.
Yep.
I think that should change some plans, some free agency plans. Because if you're Colorado right now, you're looking at, you definitely need a guy to play your second line center, right? But you could use some depth. What if a Ben Myers isn't that great? What if you don't want to use a Maltsev or a Kaut or whatever? You want an extra guy here, an extra guy there, whatever, and you just decide, hey, all right, we've got $10 million to spend. Let's go get, let's defensively, let's bring Ryan Murray back and let's go sign Calvin DeHaan. Okay, there's a couple of guys that you can slide into that. And then at the forward side, you say, hey, let's go sign Sonny Milano and Danton Heinen instead of Andrew Kopp. Instead of giving Andrew Kopp 5 years at $5.5 million, you split that 5.5 between Danton Heinen and Sonny Milano, and you play Mikko Rantanen as your 2C. Is that a better option than going with Andrew Kopp and just being like, done? Or would you rather split that money up between a couple of different guys and just be, in theory anyway, a little bit deeper, but not quite as top heavy? Like your 2C is not going to be like a 2C.
Personally, I think I'd rather go get a proper 2C.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Is that because there are guys available like a Kopp, like a Trocheck, like a Malkin?
Yeah, those guys are proper dudes that you can drop in, and that guy's going to give you quality minutes every single night in your top six.
And to your point about the RFA market, well, I guess not the RFA market, but what was a bunch of RFAs now making their way to free agency. I just think there's going to be a lot of affordable depth options out there because the market's pretty oversaturated. I think you're going to be able to get some depth guys that can fill in just fine. Honestly, I know you said yesterday that you didn't like it. For me, AJ, if you're going to do something like that, I'd rather just go get like Dylan Strome and say, cool, we're gonna take a chance at 2C for a little bit less than like a sure thing.
So if you do that, if you say, hey, we're going to have Dylan Strome, we're going to bring in Dylan Strome with the idea of him being our second line center, then you have to use those savings and say, okay, well, then we want Danton Heinen for our third line.
For sure. And that's where
that's where you can easily sell me on like the idea of a Dylan Strome, like, hey, he's kind of like he's a little bit proven. He can do that job. He might be a lower end 2C across the NHL, but if that means that your third line is going to be nasty, then, you kind of live with that, because that would set you up for a Newhook comp for Danton Heinen third line, where you're like,
well, I think part of that,
girl, that's pretty good.
Part of that deal too is how much do you believe in Alex Newhook taking that next step this year? Because if you believe he can, by the end of next season, be that 2C guy for you, you can afford to take a little bit more risk in that position with a guy that, if he doesn't work out, it's like, well, all right, we just put Newhook up there and make it work.
Well, to me, that's honestly kind of the why I look. If they go out and get a proper 2C, I'm gonna use Andrew Kopp. I'm just gonna use it as the example. If they go out and get Andrew Kopp,
we're gonna sign him tomorrow. So
right, like obviously, I'm fine with that. I think that works. I think that's good for them. But if I got to draw it up perfectly, I'd actually like to see them go get a guy like Dylan Strome for that 2C, because what it does is, to AJ's point, that's a guy who is proven to some extent. That's a guy that you feel confident that you can roll out there on the first day. But that's also someone that's not like, oh yeah, you're not going to play Alex Newhook over this guy. That's still a spot that can be kind of competitive. If you really start getting good minutes out of Alex Newhook, Dylan Strome struggles a little bit, you can make that swap. You can start moving Newhook up the lineup. It just doesn't feel so, oh, we went out and got this guy. Like, this last season's a bad example because Nazem Kadri played outstanding. But like, either way, they weren't going to put Newhook at 2C and Kadri at 3C, regardless of how Newhook played. You know what I mean? And so to have a guy there that if Newhook really starts taking that step and really starts pushing the play, you've got some flexibility there. And again, like, the Avs just won a cup. They've earned a year to try a couple things out, to see what they've got. And your worst case scenario is you end up with a good roster that's cheaper than what you'd originally planned for.
Okay. We'll talk a little bit more about the forwards too, but we are brought to you by Sexy Pizza. You can go get it at, I believe it's 5 locations now in the Denver metro area. So go check them out. They have a bunch of awesome different types of pizza, whether it just be, simple pepperoni, or you can get the weirdly popular jalapeno cream cheese pizza that people either seem to love it or hate it. Tons of other options too. You can check out their philanthropies. Highly recommend you get over there. You can go to sexy.pizza to check them out online today and order. And you can also use the DNVR code to get up to 15% off. Okay, I guess I'm alone now. No, AJ's still here.
I'm just chilling.
Yahir just said no. Let him go. Check out Sexy Pizza. Again, that's sexy.pizza to order online. And of course, you can also get on over to DraftKings. Go over there, use the DNVR code to sign up right now, and you can get up to a $1,000 bet for your first bet, risk-free. That means you can bet $1,000, and if you are wrong, you will get it back into your account from DraftKings on your first bet. When you sign up, it has to be a new account. Have to use the DNVR code when you sign up to get that opportunity. So make sure you do that. You can bet on all sorts of craziness all over the board. I guess they just call it the Open now. When I grew up, everyone called it the British Open. But the British Open's kicking off this week. So if you want to bet on golf, you can go over there with that. You can take a crash course with AJ and learn what ultimate frisbee is. So you can bet on that.
That was fun. That was an interesting, the more you know kind of thing.
Lots of options out there on DraftKings Sportsbook, ranging all over the board. If it's a sport, you can pretty much bet on it at DraftKings. Second period. Wait, hang on. Must be 21 or older, Colorado only. Other terms, restrictions, conditions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Minimum $5 deposit. If you have a gambling problem here in Colorado, you can call 1-800-522-4700. You can see all the other numbers up on your screen there. Okay, second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. I did want to start looking at defensemen, but are there any other forwards you guys are specifically keeping your eyes on coming into free agency?
Yeah, did San Jose do something with Rudolph's Balsers? Is that why people are talking about him today? I've been at dev camp most of the morning, so I've missed any NHL news.
So I'm gonna take a little detour here. So we were at dev camp.
We don't know. Cool.
Yeah, no, we don't know. We don't. We were
what?
at dev. What?
They bought him out? Oh my God! What the? Okay. Anyway, if he's available, they should 100% be making a play for that guy.
Wait, who is it?
Rudolph Balsers.
Oh.
Just as a depth guy, not as part of the top 6.
The same Rudolph Balsers who scored a hat trick at the rookie tournament a few years back.
Yeah.
Yo, the same Rudolph Balsers who's fucking really good.
So
anyway,
we were at dev camp, and Lacroix Hockey, they've really done a good job getting I believe it's called Drill House. It's kind of a new strength and training and just high-end hockey training for looks like age ranging all the way from little kids all the way up to junior level kids. So they had a group on the ice, and it was really funny because it was some high-end high school kids, some prep kids. Saw a kid out there in USHL stuff, kid or two out there in USHL. I think there was one kid out there in college gear. And then Mason Geertsen taking part in the camp. This isn't running the camp. The next two names I'm about to say are taking part in the camp. Mason Geertsen and Peter Mueller were part of this developmental hockey skills camp.
Like Peter Mueller, I could see, right? Like that's a dude who's retired now. He's not
retired.
He's playing in some random Euro
league. But yeah,
sure. Geertsen makes no sense to me because he played like a significant number of NHL games in New Jersey this year.
He looked very out of place out there. Like it was really weird. I was like, oh wow, Mason Geertsen's out here helping run this. And I was like, no, he's getting in line. Like, he's part of this. And then I noticed Peter Mueller. It was good to see Peter Mueller still out there, but just odd. Just odd.
That is very random, but neat.
Yeah. So just throwing that out there.
Okay. Yeah.
Grandma Geertsen was not there, Evan.
Yeah, she can't block people IRL.
I wouldn't be on this pod today if she was. You guys would be visiting me in the hospital.
I think there'd be a long line of people on their way to the hospital.
All this talk about drill house, and to me, it just sounds like the natural evolution of trap house.
Is it drill house? Am I getting that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So let's move on here, and I don't know how much we'll have to say because there are not a ton of big name defensemen out there on the market this year.
Oh, did we ever cap off forwards? Sorry,
That's
AJ
what I was
did a little
talking
bit.
about. That's what I was talking about. Rudolph's Balsers,
Yeah.
and you wanted to tell the Peter Mueller story.
Yeah, no,
If you have other forwards, go for it, Jesse.
Well, Andre Palat is obviously an interesting one. He's going to get a big raise. Max Domi is a guy the Avs have always had a one.
I always liked him too.
One eye on. So I don't know. I mean, like, that's a guy that I think could be a decent middle six fit for this group.
Why get that guy when you could get actual good NHL players for once? Like, for the first time ever, you have like guys who are coming off of like good years, who have no personality issues, who have been playing quality hockey for a couple of years.
Does Max Domi have personality issues? And I'm asking.
There's been friction in some of his stops, and like guys who are doing their thing, just for some reason, just didn't get qualifying offers yesterday.
I feel like that was a little harsh, but I agree with your concept.
You're talking about guys who don't have.
Like who?
Red flags, like guys who have not been in 4 organizations in the last 4 years now.
Like who?
So we just talked about a handful of them, like a guy like a Dylan Strome. Why is Chicago getting rid of that guy?
No. I'm with you. And like those names that we talked about, kind of there off the top, but to me, like, I guess my kind of thing is like as you continue going down this list. Are there a ton of guys that you're falling all over yourself to get? No. You know who's a guy I would love to see them bring in for the same reason you'd love to see them bring in Joe Pavelski is fucking David Perron. Just save yourself 8 goals against this season and bring in David Perron.
Now you have 8 20-goal scorers. Like
I feel like David
extra
Perron,
sticking to him. Yeah.
Specifically, Perron might be a tough sell to the fan base, though.
I also don't know if he'd want to come here. He's played for enough organizations that have real animosity with the Avs.
Dude, that dude would show up, have a hat trick against St. Louis in their first game against him, and everybody would be like, "Yeah, he's one of us now."
Yeah.
But you do have to wonder, like, if St. Louis is sitting on right around $9 million in cap space, and they haven't made a real legitimate offer to him. He's either asking for something silly,
right,
or
So here's the other question before we get on to defensemen, because like honestly, like I'm going down this list, and I'm not saying these are all guys they should go after, but there are a lot of interesting names out there this year, partially fueled by what you're talking about, AJ, of just like guys that didn't get QO'd.
How would it be the worst thing in the world if we woke up tomorrow and Nicolas Aube-Kubel re-signed a 2-year deal at $900K?
No.
Well, I think we would all just be like, cool.
Right.
That's fine.
So let me ask you guys this. Do you think because of all those players not getting qualified offers, in addition to the flat cap, plus you add in the fact that there's plenty of guys this summer, I think, worth taking a chance on, not just the Avs, just across the league. Is this going to cost some guys some money?
Yeah.
Like, do you think there are guys going into free agency saying, like, I'm going to get this, and they end up getting nowhere close to that?
Yeah, I think, we're talking about the Avs looking at Dylan Strome, but there should be 25 plus other teams going, oh, maybe we go get Dylan Strome for cheaper than what we were going to do.
Like the fucking funniest one. Dude, Arizona should be like, "Hey, Dylan, we could really use a guy of your ilk here to try and help build this thing back up, and you'll get to play a lot. You know, maybe we'll give you that big contract we always thought we were going to give you in the first place."
Yeah, it's just going to be interesting to see how this kind of shakes out. Because, yeah, like I just saw someone in the chat saying that the rumor is that David Perron wants $7 million. Like, is David Perron going to get to the market and be like, oh,
okay, he can want $7 million all he wants.
Oops. Like, I think this is going to be a really interesting offseason in terms of the forwards. Because, like we're about to get into, the D is way thinner.
I would say for the Avalanche, given where they are in their window, given they just won a championship, I think they're in less of a position to take chances on guys than a lot of other teams are. They want to go get the solid for sure thing to go try and win another cup.
Man, I like Ilya Mikheyev, but if he wants 5x5, bye.
Oh, no shot you're giving Mikheyev.
And this is the thing, is that like there's all these guys who are out there like, yes, free agency, time to get paid, but like yesterday flooded that market.
Yeah,
with guys where all those guys who want $4 million are now getting 2.5.
And then it hits July 17th, and you don't have a contract, and you're like, oh boy.
Well,
boy, remember when I wanted 5x5?
I think we're going to see guys give up term tomorrow.
Also possible, yeah.
You know, just guys trying to maybe wait it out till the flat cap is in the rearview mirror. I think
there are some guys that can't do that. You know, a guy like a Malkin doesn't have time to do shit like that.
Oh, no,
but
no.
Most of these guys, yeah, like the Dylan Stromes of the world should be like 1 or 2 year deals, like tops.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, I mean, I guess if somebody's going to be like, hey, Dylan Strome, here's a 6-year deal, like, it'd be hard to say no, right? But yeah. I just, I do think that you're probably right. We are probably looking at the shorter term deals, and I wonder if that means we have a slower day tomorrow as teams kind of work through this influx of options. Happens like every so often we see an RFA class kind of just end up with a lot of QOs that don't get sent out and they get flooded into the market, and you're like, geez. Now we have to work our way through all these extra guys. Now you have your scouting and you do your homework and blah, 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 blah. But that happening 2 days before free agency opens, you've got your list. You kind of have your idea, prices, and how much money you're going to have to spend and what you're looking to fill and the needs that you have, all that. I don't know. I just wonder how much yesterday disturbed some of that. Because I do think that every team should be redoing that process today. And going back, and I wonder if it slows things down just a little bit tomorrow.
Yeah. I definitely think it made the day more interesting, other than like waiting around for 4 or 5 big names and then a bunch of dudes after it.
I mean, I'm suddenly find myself invested in where Danton Heinen and Sonny Milano end up tomorrow. You know, like it's like, okay.
Yep. Okay. I do want to move into the defenseman quickly here. I don't know how long we'll spend on it. The Avs obviously have not yet come to a deal with Josh Manson. I'm not saying that that's over. They could still end up bringing him back.
As far as I know, still talking.
So nothing official there yet, but in a world where Josh Manson could potentially be leaving, you're looking at this D class. Yeah, you have John Klingberg as probably the biggest name on the list.
Guy that the Avs have liked quite a bit in the past.
So maybe that's the interesting one, but you look after that and there's just not a ton. You're looking at guys like Leddy, Subban, Oli Mata, Zadorov.
So AJ, you
Oli Mata.
You threw a tease out there yesterday at the end of the day. And I want you to get to it because I'm genuinely curious as to what you have to say, because I want to hear what you have to say.
So I mean, I talked about PK Subban, and I'm gonna talk about him again. Basically, PK PK Subban's been making $9 million. And like that's fucking crazy. And that's why everybody's looking at him like he's a bum now. The truth of this is that PK Subban was quietly pretty solid in New Jersey this last year. Now, he's not top. I don't think he's a top 4 guy anymore. He doesn't need to be a top 4 guy in Colorado.
Right.
This is a guy, and as a right shot, he could come into Colorado, and that dude, I don't know what kind of money he wants, but I'm saying if he would be willing to take, say, $3 million, even on a 1-year deal where he's like, hey, I'm going to go to Colorado, I'm going to be in this infrastructure that's very offensively oriented, and I might be able to produce 35 points and go get paid next year. We'll see, right? But I'm saying if PK Subban's willing to take $3.5 million to come and be Colorado's third pairing guy, I think that would be pretty interesting. Because what you do like is that his puck skill and the way that he skates, his mobility, all of that is stuff that plays in Colorado.
Yep.
Now he's not going to get power play time, and you lose some of that like natural defensive acumen. You know that with Josh Manson, you're talking about more of a defensive guy, where the offense that you get is the gravy. With PK Subban, I would say, that's probably not the case. You're giving up a little bit on the defensive end for his offensive acumen, and is that something that you really need? No. You know, with Sam Girard coming back, you would effectively be replacing the Jack Johnson, Josh Manson, Ryan Murray 6th defenseman role with PK Subban. And if Eric Johnson has any kind of an injury, that dude is in your top 4 if things go a certain way for you. Do you trust him to be that guy? I don't know that answer is yes, but could you see a top 6 of Taves, Makar, Byram Johnson, and Gerard Subban, and feeling like, hey, this is pretty solid, man.
So when you said that yesterday, like honestly, I'm right there with you. For the right money, I think PK Subban makes, not like, oh my God, it makes so much sense, but he makes like a weird amount of sense in the role that you just laid out. Your 6th guy, because of what he does well. And what you do like is if you get some injuries on the power play, you can plug him in there if you need to. He still has the shot. You know, he can move, he can skate, he can get the puck up ice. As a backup option, I'm with you. Like,
well, and at 33, you'd be talking about a 1 or 2 year deal here.
Absolutely, yeah.
So,
and he's getting nowhere near what like not even in the same realm as what his contract.
Oh yeah, I mean,
is expiring right now. Like not even in the same stratosphere.
He's coming off of a $9 million deal. He's not getting that. So, like that's literally Cale Makar money. He's not getting that kind of money. He's gonna be. We're gonna be talking about a guy that could show up in Colorado. He could play. He could give you. I think the hope would probably be like 25 points here. Yeah. Like 25-ish points, because he's not going to play on the PK much, or on the PP much, and he would have to play on the PK for you.
Yeah.
So I that's where I think the fit in terms of like what Colorado really wants on the back end and who Subban is probably why it's a no-go more than anything else. It could be money. Like somebody could give that guy a 3-year deal of $5 million, and you're just like,
right.
Good luck.
Thank you. Like, I'm just not interested in that.
Yeah,
but that's a that's a name that I think, hey, this is. I mean, I feel the way about PK Subban as I did Ryan Murray last year. Oddly enough, coming out of New Jersey, where I'm just like, this guy's skill set would play here. It'd be a good fit here. He's fine. He's coming off a decent year. If you go and you look at PK Subban's underlying numbers this last year, they're fine. They're not great, but you're not asking him to be PK Subban anymore.
Right.
It's just not. you're just looking for a solid third pairing guy that can help you out here. That can be a consistent, important player for you. And if you get a good year out of him, once again, your defense is in a absolutely loaded position.
Right. And it's for me, it's I'm with you. It's a 1-year deal, 2 max if you really think that you can get something out of him. And again, like you just trust that your system is going to continue to get the best versions of people. What the Avs got out of Josh Manson far and away exceeded the expectations of what people thought they'd get out of Josh Manson. What they got out of Jack Johnson far and exceeded the expectations of what people thought they'd get out of Jack Johnson. Curtis McDermott, to me, like I saw a huge improvement in his game. Obviously, he didn't play a major role. They have a track record in these last few years of taking guys and getting more out of them than maybe what they were giving somewhere else. And to me, PK Subban is a guy who lived his life on the very high end of defenseman for a year or 2.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 years, depending on how you personally kind of stretch that out. And
I do wonder about fit as AJ started to talk about it. We talked about him last year at the trade deadline quite a bit, and Calvin DeHaan might be a little bit better there, a little bit more of a flexible player that you can move around.
That is a guy that when you say, okay, we need a defensive to D to really anchor this. But again, like with Ryan Murray, you're talking about a guy who has an endless string of injury issues.
For sure.
Calvin DeHaan is always fucking hurt. I love that guy. I have had a weird love of that guy since he got drafted. And I am telling you, that dude cannot get off the team bus without some sort of an injury taking place. Now, he'll battle through it because what are ya? But he's always hurt. That guy, wherever he is right now, he is dealing with a nagging something.
He's ailing.
And so you're just like, do you want that? Because like, if there's one thing that you can say about PK Subban, he's pretty durable. He's a guy that's in your lineup a lot more often than not. He's not missing 20 games.
So you would have no interest in maybe taking a look at someone like a Nudivara then, who obviously only played 1 game last year because of injury. But
I mean, that's a lower. That's like a 4th day of free agency conversation for me. Where you're talking maybe like you have the conversation like Jan Rudo, where you're like, this guy's fine. I like this is okay. I don't hate this. This is perfectly acceptable.
But these are the type of conversations you have to have if you want to go out and pay a Malkin or something like that.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. You're 100% correct. That you would need to. Justin Braun would be another guy where you're like, hey, Justin Braun is fine. You're not looking for. You're not like you aren't looking for a long-term commitment at this spot. You just don't need it. Yeah. There are enough of these blah plug and play guys that are fine third pairing defenders. Like they're not going to excite. They're not going to sign, and you're going to be like, yes, we got that guy, Justin Braun. But like that's not what you're looking for. You've got your studs, and if EJ plays anything like he did in the postseason, which I'm of course not expecting, but if he does something like that, I mean, you feel great about it. Brett Kulak is a guy that's probably going to get a bigger contract than the Avs can reasonably afford to give, but another guy, hey, I loved him in that Oilers series. I thought he was maybe the only defenseman that they had who didn't look like he was drowning against the Avs. He was fine in that series. So Ilya Lyubushkin is a no for me. He's way too limited. We just saw why he doesn't work on a team that needs to play offense.
Yep.
He is a black hole with the puck, and all the things that he does well are great on guys that it's just a no. Lyubushkin is a no for me. So when they sign him tomorrow, I'm going to have to take a heavy dose of copium and talk myself into it. But I'm not into that. I'm not into a good Branson type would be a no for me as well. Those guys suck.
Yeah, not my type. Really quick, we are, of course, brought to you by FOCO. You can go over there to FOCO.com. That's FOCO.com to get licensed merchandise from all of your Denver sports teams, including the Championship Avalanche. They have a bunch of gear ranging from their best work is their bobbleheads. If you're a bobblehead collector, Foco's
Yeah, they are
bobbleheads
cool.
are elite tier
Great.
stuff.
They're great.
But they also have all sorts of other cool stuff, whether it be like flags or Crocs. Apparently, they also have some slides, whatever you want related to your favorite team. You can go check them out at foco.com. Yeah, they're dope. If you haven't checked out their merchandise, go check it out. Not just Avs, but they have, of course, Broncos, Rockies, Nuggets, and more from the Colorado area. So jump on that today. Go check it out. Wow, people just keep giving us way too much money. Go check out Foco. We're also brought to you, of course, by Breckenridge Brewery, the official beer of DNVR. You can get that down at your local liquor store. And I don't want to say the wrong time, but I think the bar should be open by mid-August again, correct?
So, kinda. I think the plan is that we're gonna slowly open it back up to
For sure.
members.
Sure.
So the regulars, if you've made yourself a regular, you get first dibs at seeing the new bar.
Yep.
If you haven't made yourself a regular, you're bad, and time to resurrect that. Time to fix that mistake when the full thing opens up again.
There you go. Either way, DNVR Bar 2.0 is coming later in the summer, one way or another. So you can check that out and get your Breck brew over there when it does happen. So be sure to get on that one. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Jesse, you haven't gotten in too many words on the defense. Is there anything particular you were looking at?
No, I mean, look, my preference honestly would be to bring back Josh Manson. I just think he fit in really well, and he's just a delight to talk to. That's my preference, but to me, it sounds a little bit more like that is going to be an up to him and not so much, can you make the offer? Can you, do you have the money he wants? I'd be willing to bet the Avs can pay him what he wants. It's just a matter of where he wants to go. Here's the other thing that honestly you are fighting with some of these guys. They won a cup. They got the ring.
There's a cup champion tax every time a guy has won a Stanley Cup in free agency.
Right.
He's won a cup. This is the Ian Cole got paid $500K too much on every contract over the last 8 years because he won Stanley Cups in Pittsburgh.
Well, and then not only that, a guy like Manson who, he's not like getting ready to retire, but he's on the back half of his career probably, right? He's probably past not saying he's on the down, but it's just whatever you want to make your middle demarcation line. He's probably on the back side of it. He got his championship. He got his ring. Now you really do kind of shift into, and this isn't Josh Manson. This isn't me speaking bad on Josh Manson. This is pro athletes, and this is honestly what some of them should do. Now you're at the point where it's like, okay, cool. I want to win. I want to get another cup, but I also need to start making sure that I'm setting up myself, my family, making as much money as we can. I'm going to get this. If I get this huge contract offer from the Ducks to go back, well, I'd be silly to not do that because I have my ring. I've got my championship. Now I need to make the money in a place that I like. You can be a little bit more choosy. That's who I'd prefer. Honestly, look, you're talking about a 6th D spot. And for me, I don't have an issue with them taking a swing on a guy like Subban. I also don't have an issue with them going with a guy like Justin Braun, who's just solid if that saves you some money to plug some maybe more important holes. I just think that is a spot on the roster where, with all due respect to these guys, those are a dime a dozen. If you absolutely need to, you can address your 6th D spot during the regular season via trade. If you need to upgrade it at the trade deadline, things are going well. You feel like you're in a position to repeat. But you need a little bit of a boost. That's what you're talking about here. You're talking about a bottom pairing guy.
The nice part about Manson, too, would be, I'm just going to assume that it's a 4-year deal, is that when Eric Johnson expires next year, You feel no pressure to run
Yep.
that back.
Yep.
If he wants to come back and play for a pittance compared to the $6 million he's on, then that's a conversation you can have. But having this next act of Josh Manson's career where he's a second or third pairing defender on any given night, depending on how well they play. Because if you have a Josh Manson, that gives you a bona fide. You have four top four guys, hard top four on almost any NHL team in Gerard, Byram, Taves, Makar. But you don't need to play them together. You can spread them out. Byram with Johnson, Gerard with Manson, left, right, all these different things. And you feel great about that. Because, hey, on a night where Sam Girard's not playing well, or Josh Manson's not playing well, or Eric Johnson's not playing well, you can adjust accordingly and still have your top four guys getting those minutes that you want. And then if Eric Johnson moves on, then Josh Manson becomes kind of that guy, and then you do get to save a little bit of money there. The one thing about a Josh Manson versus a Justin Braun, or a 2-year deal for a PK Subban type, is that you do want to know what's next, not only for Bowen Byram's contract, which will be next summer, but the summer after that, you're having the Devon Toews conversation.
Yep.
Devon Toews when he's 31. Are you going to give Devon Toews $8 million?
Because somebody will.
Or do you just kind of accept, hey, we're going to lose this guy? And Josh Manson is sort of a half measure of preparing to lose Devon Toews in 2 years, where you say, we'll be a little bit deeper, we'll be a little bit more reliable, but Bowen Byram will take that guy's job. Sam Girard will still be here. Cale Makar will still be here. And if we need to, we can go and find another defenseman somewhere along the way, blah, 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 blah. It's a couple years from now. Well, maybe Sean Behrens is ready for that job.
And I think it's a great point, because these are the types of decisions that you have to make when you're in the Avs situation, when you're in your cup window, and when you're committing to moves that are trying to get you over the finish line. Because in a different universe where the Avs didn't go all in this year, or they weren't really going to make the cup final or whatever, this 6D spot is easy to drop Justin Barron in. Mm-hmm. But they had to give up that asset to get over the line this year. So now they have to figure out ways to fill that void a little bit. And I think that's what you're going to see a lot of off seasons over the next couple of years for the Avs is figuring out how to make the pieces work into those holes.
Yeah.
And again, like, you just have to look, and I know, again, there's a lot of people, and this is a good thing. There's a lot of people that have become fans of the Avs in the last 10-ish years.
Days.
So this is what?
It's a days. It's more like 20 days at this point.
Last 10 weeks. Give them a little
those people will actually understand it. Those people will be like, yeah, we're all on board with this. This is what you do. Right? Like, you guys remember early 2000s, late 90s, that was just what the Avs did. Was they went out and they made the trades and they got the guys they needed and they plugged the holes they needed to through free agency, through trades. They traded a lot of draft picks. They picked late in the first round. This is what teams in the championship window do. The Avs won. They got one.
Yeah.
Now it's how many can you get with this core? So people do just need to kind of start preparing themselves for this to be the next era of Colorado Avalanche hockey for the next 3 to 5 years. You move assets, you move youngsters, and you plug the holes that you need to plug however you do it. Look at Tampa. That is been their cut and paste for the last 3 or 4 years. We trust our core. Our core stays intact. We fix around the edges as we need to. And that's what the Avs are going to do. They're going to do it through trades at the trade deadline. They're going to do it through free agency, and they're going to do it by moving guys at the draft. This is what they are setting up to do, and this is how you do it, Rudo. I think the way you just put that was 100% right. You plug holes when you need to plug holes.
Yep. Well, and you can see some of these coming. You can see, okay, Bowen Byram's going to get a raise, but you're going to pay whatever the fuck he wants on that raise. You're going to keep Bowen Byram. You'll do what you have to do. You're keeping Bowen Byram. There's not any like, well, we can't afford him, so I guess we're just gonna move this guy. No. You're gonna keep that guy, and you'll move the other guys. And if that means that in 2 years you have to move Josh Manson, and he's got 2 years left on whatever deal you're trying to sign him to right now, fine.
Yep.
Ryan McDonough just got moved for a decent forward prospect and an okay NHL defenseman. Fine.
Right.
Like, fine. Do what you got to do.
Yep.
But for right now, they can afford to keep Josh Manson. They can afford to then take that money, the money that's left over, and then you go and you get a decent second line center.
Yep.
Or you could, if you're talking Justin Braun, it's probably because you did go get a Malkin type, where you went big on your 2C, and now you're trying to save a little bit of money. That balancing act, like, you have to pick the area of your roster where you're going to be a little bit weaker in the long term. Let's be honest right now. If Josh Manson signed, it's a fucking luxury for Colorado.
100%.
And they chose the luxury of having a dope third pairing, a dope second and third pairing that are completely interchangeable on any given night versus having the certainty at forward that they've had the last couple of years. With guys like Andre Burakovsky is going to make $6 million, and that guy was a scratch during this playoff run.
Right.
It's wild.
Like, let's keep in mind here, like, the Avs, all of Colorado's luxuries were at forward in this last year. They're going to lose that.
Very, very quickly, the one thing that does obfuscate this a little bit on how much money the Avs do have exactly to play with is Arturi Lekkonen's deal.
Yeah.
How much do they end up bringing Lehkonen back for? Because that's on the cheap side. Maybe the Avs have an extra $1 million to play with when it's go get a Malkin, and maybe you make Josh Manson work then. If Lehkonen costs $5.5 million, maybe you have $1 million less than you thought, and now it's a lot tighter to go make one of those bigger moves. So the Avs internally, of course, have a decent understanding of what Lehkonen's number is, I'm sure, but from the outside perspective, there's a range there, right? That we're going to see what exactly the Avs can afford to do tomorrow.
Yeah, and it's a good point that the Lehkonen, because look, I think Nichushkin probably came in a touch higher than we were expecting.
Yep.
And if the same ends up true for Lehkonen, if Lehkonen's on like a $5.2 million deal or something, we're all going to be like, oh, Jesus, okay. Like, this is why Josh Manson is going back to the Ducks,
Right.
But if they go and they get a 2C, you don't really care that much, because that's Lehkonen if Lehkonen gets locked up, let's just say on a deal of at least 4 years in length, you're talking your 5 of your top 6 forwards are totally locked down. Mm-hmm. You're not even worrying about, you don't have the top 6 conversation again for years. Literally.
Half a decade, yeah.
Literally for years. The next time that you talk about this is whenever Mikko Rantanen's deal ends.
Right.
So you're feeling pretty good about that. And then if they do take any of that money and then they go and they sign the 2C with the rest of their money, your whole top 6 is now golden.
Yeah.
Like your top 6 is golden. Your top 4 on defense is fine. Your top 2 pairings, your big 4 there, are fine for at least 2 years. So you really just feel like you're just feeling like, hey, it's just whatever they decide to do in this offseason will tell you, like, okay, this is where they're comfortable being weaker. This is where they're comfortable taking chances. What I think has been fascinating is that where they have been comfortable taking a chance, the biggest chance of all is at fucking goalie. They're like this is like the most Moneyball thing that we've ever seen the Avs legitimately do, is play the goalie market the way that they are. Hey, we've got Semyon Varlamov. He's got 1 year left. Go get Philip Grubauer. All right. And then when Philip Grubauer shits the bed against Vegas, you go, oh, dog, we ain't going to give you that kind of money. And Ron Francis is like, I'm bad at my job. Here you go.
I just botched the expansion draft.
Yeah. And so you're like, hey, I'm in a bad spot here. I got to go. I got to pivot. We got to go and get Darcy Kemper. Boom. He wins you a Stanley Cup. Holla. And now you're back to taking the chances. Like, that's really where the Avs have decided they're going to take their biggest chance. on cost efficiency is in net. That
Yep.
decision's already been made. Everywhere from here is pretty much just them trying to figure out like the next pieces of the lineup. And it's really like third pairing defenseman, second line center. Like these are your big questions.
Yep, agreed. Very, very quickly, the goalie market is pretty much already decided. The only two relevant goalies, Kemper sounds like is going to the Caps. Campbell sounds like is going to Edmonton. Everyone else there is a backup caliber goaltender, basically.
What do you guys think of the Matt Murray thing?
It's a choice. Toronto made a choice.
I thought Steve Dangle put it best on Twitter. He said this is either the start of an incredible comeback story, or it's the beginning of the end of the Austin Matthews era in Toronto.
Can't say it any better than that.
Yep, nailed it. Okay, we do have 2 super chats to get to really quickly here. Uh-oh. Did Yaya abandon us? No, we're good. $5 from James, who said, would be so hyped if we got Malkin or Giroux. Also think Milano would be a good fit.
Sonny Milano. Can we talk about Sonny Milano real quick? Like, how do you guys feel about this whole Sonny Milano thing? Because offensively, I feel comfortable with what he does, right? But as an all-around player playing the kind of game that the Avs want to play, is Sonny Milano a guy that can do that?
You know, I'm always this guy, right? But you got Maltsev. You QO'd him to keep him around.
Mm-hmm.
At a certain point, are you going to use that guy? Or are you going to keep going out and getting Sonny Milanos?
Well, and where I would say these two don't matter is that Sonny Milano is going to come in and do a job that Mikhail Maltsev's not. But I understand the idea of, hey, you push a guy down on your roster.
Right. There's only so many roster spots there. And with Sonny Milano, he's one that I struggle with when you have Alex Newhook, when you have JT Compher playing on your third line. You want those guys to be that guy for you, to provide a 30-ish, 35-ish point guy on your third line that can score a little bit. I think Milano becomes a little bit redundant with what the Avs already have in their depth forward core.
What if I
Redundant
told you?
is my word.
What if I told you that his defensive impacts were actually great?
Cool.
And that he drives play offensively.
Again, I still think you fall into the offensive side where he's a little redundant with Newhook. But if they believe in his defensive ability, if you think that guy can PK for you, I can see how you could find a role for him at least. But again, there's only so many guys.
I would also ask, isn't part of our conversation about Alex Newhook last year centered around the fact that, hey, but playing him with Logan O'Connor and Nick Aube-Kubel, get him with some real talent here. If Newhook is centering Sonny Milano and JT Compher, isn't that a third line that you're like, God damn, that's going to give some teams some problems? It's not the big bang it out, grind it out, go possession wise, but you still have Cogliano, you still have O'Connor, you still have Ben Myers on your fourth line to go and do some of that. So isn't that more of an offensively tilted line where you're like, look, as long as you solve the 2C issue, assuming that that's separate, and that Milano would come here and be a second or third line guy, kind of interchangeable in my mind with Arturi Lehkonen, depending on the alignment that you want. Like, I'm just saying, depending on the alignment, you could maybe argue for a Lehkonen, Newhook, Compher third line to have it be a little better balanced in play style, and then Sonny Milano next to Mikko Rantanen, and then whoever you decide is your 2C. Maybe an Andrew Kopp here.
I think Milano on a second line would be a tough sell, but
yeah,
really,
just not sure the offensive production is quite that high. I know you said he's drive play great, but I do wonder if he can really push it to that next level. And granted, like if the Avs went out and did that, it'd be like, all right, they're probably right because they've done it with Nichushkin, they've done it with Lehkonen, they've proven they can make that work with guys, and they're good at targeting guys that can do that.
Well,
but
I'm looking at Sonny Milano and I'm wondering, is this your next Andre Burakovsky? This is a guy that's really
big shoes to fill, man.
Yeah, and I would say just Andre Burakovsky as a productive middle six guy for you, not the goal scoring acumen, because I don't think
To
he's that
me-
caliber of shooter.
That's what I'm looking for Alex Newhook to be this year.
Agreed.
I want Alex Newhook to be
if he
Andre
does,
Burakovsky.
but if he does that, it's going to be because he's with talented guys, right?
Well,
And if he's playing with Ben Myers and JT Compher, have you put Alex Newhook in a position to be that guy?
here's
Think
I-
he's necessarily going to, and maybe I don't know.
I think the way you put it with Josh Manson is perfectly the same thing here with Sonny Milano. Sonny Milano would be a luxury. And if you get it, I'm not going to be upset. I'm not going to think it makes the Avs worse. I think it definitely makes the Avs better. But
Okay.
if you get Sonny Milano at the sacrifice of solving that last defensive spot or getting a little bit of a week or 2C, that's where I would wonder a little bit about maybe you could have spent that money more effectively.
Let's hit these super chats.
Yeah, there's only one more, but it's the insane one. So
Nice.
I just think
100
that's the basis of so many of the conversations we're going to have in the next 48 hours.
Absolutely, it is. $140 insanity from Drew, who's always out here shelling out the big bucks for us. Miss seeing you guys and Megan live every couple of days. Keep up the good work.
Drew, I love you, but I would have to say that feeling is, for the moment, not mutual. I do not miss post games.
Yeah,
I do not miss post games, buddy.
Definitely needed a month off of post
Yeah,
games. For sure.
give me a month, and then we're going to be doing WJC post games because we're bored.
Yep. Anyway, so that wraps up a general rundown of looking at the Avs view free agency. Yeah, go off.
Well, Anthony says I'd rather have Heinen than Milano. Take all the things that I just said about Sonny Milano, apply them to Danton Heinen.
Yeah, same thing.
Do you feel any differently?
I feel about the same, I would say.
Yeah, with Rudo. To me, again, I just think there's, and this kind of goes back to my point about that the D that we were just talking about. Like, I think there's a lot of guys that are kind of in that lumped group where it's like, yeah, there's upside. Yeah, they've got some good underlyings. It's fine. I just think that with the way the market's going to shake out this year, you're going to end up with a lot of stuff where it's like, yeah, it's fine. I like it. I don't love it. I don't dislike it. It's fine.
I just can't shake the feeling that, and maybe instead of giving Andrew Kopp $5.5 million tomorrow, that giving Dylan Strome $3.5 million, giving Danton Heinen $3 million, and then Sonny Milano $2 million. I don't know, something like that, right? Like,
it's entirely possible that they do.
That maybe they end up better and deeper and more skilled all the way down the lineup because of that. Because I guess I will also say part of my fear of what is happening this offseason, you're losing Nazem Kadri, you're losing Andre Burakovsky right off the top.
Yep.
And while I wasn't fully certainly Kadri, I'm not expecting to go wherever he's going to go and have the kind of year he just had. But part of what made the Avs so lethal in the postseason, part of what made them so impossible for these teams to beat, is that they had so much skill, so much effectiveness all the way down their lineup. There weren't guys that you're just like, God, this guy's a bum. This guy wouldn't be on an NHL team elsewhere. Alex Newhook's on your fourth line. Alex Newhook's on your fourth line. And I would say the weirdest part of this is that this is the lesson that I learned from the Val Nichushkin Reclamation Project. Because my opposition to Val Nichushkin had some to do with scoring 0 goals in 57 games played, and a lot to do with internal promotions. And at this point, is there a guy in the Avs system right now that I legitimately think can and will get a shot to play a more than a fourth line role next year? And for me, I'm just saying, probably not. And so I'm saying I would like to go and hey, if Alex Newhook goes out there and balls out, no matter who he's playing with, he'll play more. Val Nichushkin was proof of that. He will play more. If you go out there and you play great, you'll get more playing time. I think that's the thing that I learned. And I'm trying to say I want to better support Newhook, and you guys are saying Not you don't want to support Newhook, but you want to see Newhook take that job. I would like to see it, but I want to put him in a position. I want to put him in a position
to succeed.
Where when he succeeds, you can ask the question: is this Alex Newhook, or is this the fact that he's on the fucking sickest third line in the NHL?
Well, to me, that's kind of.
I guess it's a little chicken eggy.
Right. And like for me, that was always my issue with like AJ Greer, and not to like just shit on AJ Greer for no reason. But the whole like
he was the guy in the conversation with Nichushkin. He was the guy. Right. We all were just like, just give him the job.
Well, and it was always one of those things where it's like, just give him the job. He needs more opportunity. And it's like, but when he's gotten the opportunities, he hasn't done shit with it. And that's what has made Nichushkin, and not just with the Avs, but kind of like league wide, this little bit of an anomaly where it's like, this is a guy who was given the limited minutes. He was given a fourth line role, penalty killing, checking minutes. And his play has turned it into what he's at now. And obviously you're not expecting that with Newhook, but
you're kind of walking into my point, I think.
Well, no, but like he did that regardless of who was around him. He didn't need to be set up for success. He made his own success.
In some ways, totally.
So what I'm saying is like, for me, when I say I'd like to see Alex Newhook be the next Burakovsky, like, dude, just go out and be that guy. Grab the puck and rip it from that circle where you scored more goals in that like 2 weeks in the AHL than I can even keep track of. I don't get why guys get to the NHL and stop doing that stuff. Obviously, it's a lot harder. It's much faster. It's bigger. It's more physical. But that was something for AJ Greer. All three of us would get so frustrated. It's like, I watch this guy in the AHL. It's like, wow, look at him do this. Look at him go to the front of the net. Look at him, blah, 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 blah. And then he gets into the NHL, runs at two guys in the corners as hard as he can and skates off the ice. It's like, you didn't even try to do any of the things that made you successful. And to me, like, that's what Val Nichushkin did. This is what makes me successful. I'm going to do it regardless of who they put me out here with. And you'd like to see a guy like Newhook seize that.
And I think when I say you're walking into my point is that Alex Newhook didn't do that. And when you're talking about a guy like a Danton Heinen or a Sonny Milano coming available in free agency, you just say, okay, well, Alex Newhook didn't do those things to dissuade me from going and getting a Sonny Milano or a Danton Heinen.
100%. Yep.
And when I say I just want to better support him, I'm saying, look, I'm not relying on Alex Newhook to take the big step next year. I'm saying if Alex Newhook is going to be a 31-point guy, I'm planning like a sort of like a miniature backup plan with a Milano or a Danton Heinen type guy. Like I focused on those two guys, but like there are like 7 guys that we could talk about in this conversation.
I do think it kind of works both ways. You want to go get talent and put it around Newhook, but if you go out and get a solid 2C, that also insulates you from, you don't have to play Newhook at 2C. He doesn't have to become that guy if you go get an Andrew Kopp or a Evgeny Malkin or whoever.
Yeah, well, if you get a Malkin, then you put a hard stop on Alex Newhook's ascent up your lineup.
Right, but
if you get an Andrew Kopp, part of Andrew Kopp's appeal is that Andrew Kopp was
there's some flexibility there.
He was a very, very, very effective third line guy that moved around the lineup. His versatility is part of the appeal of him. So I think with go ahead.
No, you're good.
Our producer's got to go, so just so you guys know.
Well, so I was just gonna say I have 2 quick things. One, and this isn't necessarily you, also just going off comments and even the way that I'm talking, forget that this was Alex Newhook's rookie year. This was his first season in the NHL. I'm very curious to see what he does next. And 2,
100-game season.
Yeah. No, you don't.
No.
No. I love hockey.
You do.
I love hockey so much. I love watching hockey. I love watching highlights. I love reading about hockey. I love talking about hockey. You do not want the highlights from Dev Camp today.
I'll tell you, the 3 guys that jumped out at me for various reasons, and this doesn't mean that if they're not on the list that they played poorly or I didn't know, whatever. The 3 guys that I really liked from today, I really liked Taryn Pfizer, I really liked Andre Bulyalski, and I really liked Colby Ambrosio. for various reasons. But I really liked those guys, and I thought that Burakovsky absolutely popped when they started playing real hockey at the end. His size and speed combination was nasty.
Yeah.
Really good playmaking ability, and Ambrosio's ability to do things with the puck in tight spaces.
Yep, he can handle in a phone booth for sure. Okay, final thoughts, very quickly.
I'm good.
Can't wait for tomorrow.
Yeah,
Let's go.
same.
We're gonna be live
all of
day.
these different conversations are going to play out. One of these routes is going to be picked.
Yep.
Although I say that, and then they will sign nobody, and we're just going to be sitting in no man's land. Like, what the fuck is this? So
We'll see.
Anyway,
something's going to go down tomorrow. We'll be live all day. We're going live about 30 minutes before free agency officially starts, when whatever time zone you're in. That's 9:30 Mountain, 11:30 Eastern. That's when we go live. So be sure to tune into all of that. Of course, we will be Thursday at Dev Camp again. We'll see exactly what we want to do for a show on Thursday, because they do have the 3-on-3 that evening. So we might mix things up a little bit on Thursday. We'll see how that goes. But be sure to tune in tomorrow. Come hang out. Come watch the madness of free agency with us. We love all of you, and we will talk to you on the next one.